This week's episode is with Tim Noack, the founder of an NGO organisation called Mantahari, an organisation which focuses on the removal of plastics from the ocean. And the way he does this, among other things, the way he does this is by selling fashion and apparel, as well as doing talks and creating awareness for the topic itself. And 50% of all of the profits he makes goes to an NGO in Indonesia, and he distributes the money he makes back into the cause.
Right, so my name is Tim. I just turned 30 a few weeks ago. And
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Still feeling very young though. And I'm in Munich right now. That's the place where I grew up.
The reason we had him on the podcast today was to talk about how he founded an NGO and how he's made that work from a founder perspective, and what goes into it, how these kind of organizations work without making any profit, and how he personally has managed to balance his own life. Obviously, he has to pay his own bills whilst at the same time contributing to this really cool cause. We talk a lot about why the passion for the product you're working on, the company you're in, is so important, which is something I think we've kind of forgotten nowadays. So a great episode for that. Small bit of housekeeping. Obviously, you can find the podcast anywhere good podcasts are made. I'm sure you listen to it right now, but do subscribe anywhere. This is brought to you, as always, by Codesphere, and you can find a link to Codesphere and how to sign up in the description below. Enjoy the episode. We'll see you on the other side.
But how would you say someone who's from Munich?
So I would say on German, ich bin Münchner. Like
Münchner, yeah, okay. Yeah, Tim, you're currently there too, right? Everyone's down south.
Yeah. I like it down here. It's nice. It's especially nice when you get on the train in Berlin and then you get off in Munich and it smells nice, because that's the difference that you see. It's clean and there's no graffiti, and it's just like, oh my god.
All right.
I mean, like if you first exit the train and then you say that the Munich Hauptbahnhof Central Station is smelling nice, then we have a different taste. But I guess you mean that when you're going into the city, then like outside.
Yeah, it gives you an insight into what the Berlin Central train station is.
Yeah, I mean, I know Berlin. I spent quite some time there and always visiting friends. Always fun for a weekend and stuff. But I'm always glad to be back in Munich. It's a big city with a vibe of a small town, which I really like.
Yeah, nice. I like that. All right, so what is it you do?
So I studied economics, and I work as a marketing manager right now in a golf club company, basically. But that's not the reason why I'm here, because I started something else.
I'm a massive golf fan.
Yeah, let's talk about marketing golf.
Yeah. I mean, like we can talk about golf, but I think like the reason why you invited me, thank you, by the way, to that podcast is because, I founded a small non-profit company / sustainable fashion brand. And that's what I'm doing now, at least half of my time. So I was growing the brand next to my master thesis, and then did it the first 2 years now parallel to my 40 hours a week job. Oof. And now I've reduced hours in the golf sector, and I have more time for ocean carrying stuff that is way more appealing to me than golf clubs.
Okay, yeah. So you're here today to tell us about how to make a non-profit organization work, how you got that off the ground, and everything that goes into that process.
Yeah, so I still don't really know if it will work, but so far it looks quite good. And I mean, I'm very happy to share my experiences in how to get the idea and what are the struggles with starting something and what are the bottlenecks now doing it. But yeah, so far I'm actually quite happy how the brand grew and how it's evolving, because I did not really have like concrete milestones and steps when I founded it. So it's very dynamic, and that's what makes it very interesting for me.
I think a lot of our listeners can probably relate to that, not knowing if what they're currently doing is going to work out. If they're startup founders, it's always a bit of a dice roll. So
yeah, I was going to say that's literally everybody that we've spoken to in the last 6 months. So don't worry. It works until it doesn't, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, give us a bit of history about the brand and how it came to be. Yeah.
So I went to Malaysia for a semester abroad. I was studying in Kuala Lumpur for 6 months. Within my master's studies at the Technical University of Munich, and I did not really study a lot in KL, but I was traveling a lot because I took a vacation semester. I don't know if that's the correct word in English, but I did not have to bring a lot of credits back from Malaysia. So I had a lot of free time and I was diving a lot. I started diving 2014, so 3 years before I went to Malaysia. And yeah, so I got a lot of impressions about like the underwater world in Southeast Asia. And yeah, whenever you're underwater in Southeast Asia, you're in touch with plastic as well. So that was like the first context where I was, like getting more aware of that. And after my semester in Kuala Lumpur, I went to Komodo. That's a national park in Indonesia, like let's say a little bit more east than Bali, so more in direction Papua New Guinea, but right in the center. You can just Google it if you want to know where it is.
Shout out to the dragons.
Yeah, exactly. Komodo dragons, they're unique there, but I'm more interested in everything underwater in the park because it's just, a stunning landscape with lots of corals, lots of biodiversity, and worldwide the most, the biggest population of reef manta rays. And that's basically the reason why I went there, because I have a huge fascination for that animals. When I saw them the first time underwater in Indonesia, 2014, that's a moment that barely divers forget. And then I wanted to do my dive masters in Komodo because they have the biggest population there. And then I spent 3 months more or less more underwater than on the surface. And was hanging out with manta rays almost every day, getting deeper in that topic and more interested in the species. And I had a few quite drastic experiences with manta rays and plastic underwater. And that was kind of like the moment where I realized that all these things that sometimes you see in YouTube videos or on social media or on Netflix is actually real. And I was like part of it, swimming with manta rays and lots of plastic in the water. And then that started something in me that I did not want to, just push aside when I was going back to Germany. I wanted to get active. And that was at least the start of the idea to do something.
Nice. Finding a real world problem. Everybody knows about pollution and stuff, but actually seeing it firsthand, that seems to be the way that things are done to make them work. So that was a good first step. Yeah.
So I think like the biggest step was then even a little bit afterwards, because I decided that I don't want to be someone who's saying like, oh yeah, this is horrible and what can we do about it? But then just go on like nothing happened, because I guess that's what most people do. Everyone has been to a beach and has seen plastic or has seen like something that you don't like in nature, and most people already had the idea or the intention to do something or to change something. But then most of the time it's just an idea. And then once you think further, you recognize that it's going to be like a lot of work, or it's not very comfortable, like to, like reduce your own plastic and all that stuff. And yeah, I was fighting that I would be one of the people who have an emotion about something and then still do nothing. So that was basically the biggest motivation. And yeah, a few months after I went back to Germany, I had a pretty bad sports injury. That was basically the kickoff of the brand of Mantahari, because I was in, like a long rehabilitation with not being able to go backcountry skiing or skiing in general, which I would normally do in winter. And then I had more time and wanted to use that time, and then finally found like a few calm weeks to register the brand. And from then on, Mantahari is kind of like an official brand.
Tell us what does Mantahari do then? What's the actual, the mission obviously is reducing plastic in the ocean from what you described there, but tell us exactly how you go about that, and then the founding process of that we'll go to after.
Exactly. So my first intention was just to help, like to do anything, like just to be helpful in this ocean plastic problem. And then I thought, okay, like I was a student back then, and if I would donate money here and then that's not worth a lot because I did not really have a lot of money, still don't have a lot of money. And then people would not really notice the problem, And then I thought, okay, should be something that people will get aware, like will be more aware of ocean plastics, microplastics, even though they live far away from the ocean, like, for example, people in Munich, and something that is generating money to help an NGO that I met during my time in Indonesia. They're doing an amazing job working with the locals, educating them and trying to form local opinion leaders in Indonesia. And I think that's a very sustainable way of addressing that problem. And then I thought, okay, like a brand that is selling things with a mission could be something that works. So like donating 50% of the winning margin to this NGO in Indonesia, where I know the people, I met them, and I have, I trust them a lot. So it's not that you're giving money to someone, but to people that I know personally, and I'm very convinced from what they're doing. And the other part is, of course, like if someone is deciding to buy merch, for example, like a cap from Mantahari, then he is confronted with the topic. No matter if he just likes the cap or if he likes the idea, then he will recognize that the cap is made out of like recycled PET bottles and where the donation goes and all that. So this is basically the two pillars from the brand is generating money that a very, very good NGO in Indonesia can work with. And
so it's a fashion. It's you sell clothing and fashion. Right.
Yeah, basically. And the other pillar is awareness. So I'm doing talks and I'm going to companies and to schools and whoever wants to hear about that. And then I'm doing some presentations and some workshops and all that. So that's basically selling fashion, donating money, plus raising awareness for the topic.
I mean, as you said before, it can be very far removed what you can actually do in the space, but I think making it present and real is really important.
Well, let's talk a little bit about how it was for you then becoming a founder of like an NGO. What was that journey like? What were the steps you had to take to get everything registered? Did you have any big hurdles to overcome there? Any big learning experiences you can share?
I think the biggest hurdle was to just find the way to the to that institution to found the thing, because I had the idea for a longer time, and then to just do it and start it is, I think, like the biggest bottleneck of everyone who had an idea somewhen. But then in the end, like founding something is not very hard. Like it's a little bit of paperwork and registering the brand name, like getting it protected. Then like making a small homepage where friends help me and all that. But yeah, as I said, I think like to come from an idea to actually doing something and not just thinking or talking about an idea is like the biggest step that has to be overcome in the beginning.
Mm. And how did you initially balance that with your day job? Because I think that's something that a lot of people think, if I'm going to go all in on this idea, then I'm just going to have to like cut my ties with my previous life and just jump straight into it. Is that something you considered, or was it just like was it?
I did not really.
It's a bit more flexible.
Yeah, I did not really have like that many plans in the beginning. So I was playing beach volleyball professionally like a few years before, or like actually when I started, I was still kind of a professional. And there, everyone is wearing like caps, base caps. And that was like the whole idea, like I produced 50 caps. That was the first thing that I did. And my only plan back then was like to sell this 50 caps and send 500 euro, which is like 50% of the winning margin of like this 50 caps to Indonesia. And then that was the only thing that I planned to do, and saying, okay, like if this guys have 500 euro, which is a lot of money in Indonesia, then they'll be happy, I'll be happy. And then I recognized once I put them online that it didn't take me like as I expected, maybe a few months to sell this 50 caps, but 2 weeks. And then I produced more caps, designed a different model and all that. I did not really think in the beginning like how founding the project will affect my life, to be honest, because I'm driven by like I have a big passion for the ocean and for this place in Indonesia and for everything that this NGO in Indonesia is trying to preserve. So it's, I think, a very good way to be motivated by something like that instead of like driven by money or I don't know, other reasons that people are founding something. And that's why I mean, you asked like how I balanced it. In the beginning, I founded it parallel to my master thesis, so I had quite some time.
You had practice before you took the plunge into the working world, before you did the balance.
Yeah. So the brand was already registered and running until I started working, and I started a job. So like the company where I was writing my master thesis offered me a job, and I said like, no, I want to do Mantahari first and live from savings for a while and go to Indonesia and try to grow the brand and supporting some projects there. And then they asked me under what kind of contract I could imagine start working from them from now on. And then I signed a contract with 60 days of leave every year. And I mean, 40 of them unpaid, fair, but still, a super nice offer from that company, so that I could basically still go to Indonesia for 2 months in a row, which is quite important, to be in touch with everyone who is working there and who is receiving the money from the brand. And still that I don't have to live from the sales of the brand yet.
How's your company structured right now? Is it just you, or have you brought on some more employees? How's the internal structure look?
No, it's just me, and that's might be a good transition to the topic non-profit, because I'm advertising.
Before you transition, actually, I was just going to say it's interesting hearing you talk about it from a personal point of view, because I think you say it with a very human edge, and I think a lot of the time when we talk to people about their companies, it kind of gets all wrapped up in this in the sort of the kind of, for want of a better word, bullshit bingo level of you've got to do the bootstrapping and you've got to do the blah 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 and all this stuff. And basically, I think because you've got such passion at the heart of your company, then you just do it, and it's not like you don't really have to. It doesn't sound like you're kind of jumping through hoops or the things that you feel like you should do. Which I think is really cool. I think there's a lot to be said for that in the wider world of people founding companies and finding real problems that need solving and actually kind of just doing it, as opposed to just feeling that there's these startup hoops that you have to jump through.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to kind of put it into real terms, I think.
Yeah, I don't really like this startup talk, because it's just Germans talk with more English vocabulary than German. Then suddenly, all this topics like bootstrapping and all this stuff. I did not really think about any of that. I was just trying to be useful in the beginning, and then So since then, there was beginning of 2018. I'm just going with the flow, and if a door opens on the left side, I'm going there. If it's more on the right side, I'm going there. It's very dynamic. And the first business plan I ever had was 3 years after I founded the company. Then a friend of mine who is a very good consultant sat down with me for a weekend, and then we evolved a business plan for the next years. But before that, it was just plug and play.
Very cool. Yeah, let's try now and transition that into what an actual non-profit is.
Yeah. Then you ask if I'm having employees or something.
Yeah, just how it's structured. I mean, now you're a few years in, how that's grown or how it's...
That's exactly the problem. Because, I'm advertising the brand with donating a big percentage of the winning margin, 50%. And to hold that promise, it's impossible for now to pay salaries. So I'm working for free for the brand. This is what makes it non-profit. And I mean, like, for example, I'm leasing a small electric car or something, like, over the company. Otherwise, I would be pretty screwed in, coming from A to B in Munich without a car, with boxes of products and all this stuff. And now, since everything is growing a little bit, I financed a van. Like, I bought a van and I'm like paying it off for the next 6 years. This is like with the project as well. But that's in general less than €500 after taxes a month, which are the expenses. And I don't pay myself anything out. And that's why I'm still doing everything by myself, because before I pay anyone, some money I should pay myself, because like if I'm investing time to train someone to do something that I could do at the same time, then it would be probably the most effective if I would just do it and pay myself out.
I'm a bit confused with, like, I'm always a bit confused with what non-profit means. It's like, is it always like there's no profit, but the people who are working in the company, I thought that they get paid by as part of the by working at the company, but
yeah, no, that is the definition, that like or at least as I know, is that the company is founded to generate money for like an holistic reason, and not to make the people rich who founded it. And I mean, if the people who founded it or who are working for it are getting paid, and there's still enough money left to do all these holistic things, then I think it's perfect. But for me, that balance doesn't work yet. So I would have to keep a lot of money that I prefer to donate if I would want to work for live from it. And that's why I'm just going step by step, reducing my working hours from 40 to 20. Now I can still live kind of okay from a half-time job, and planning to do this now 1 or 2 years. And then hopefully, like now it's a very small cake and I'm giving away half of the cake. And I hope to grow the cake bigger, that maybe I will cut a small part out for myself, that I can live from it. But then all the rest will stay, for the cake is way bigger than half of the small cake that I'm having now. So that's basically the idea. And then if someone is skilled, or like I'm convinced that someone can make the cake even bigger, and another small part will be cut out for this person, but the cake is just growing and growing, and everything, like all the money that is going to Indonesia, or maybe in the future to Mozambique and all that, is getting more and not less with hiring people, then I'm very happy to do so. But that's not yet the case.
So as an NGO, do you seek any funding from angel investors, or is all of the money that comes in through selling of your fashion products and giving talks?
Yeah, so I was never searching for investors. Some people kind of offered that they would be interested in investing, but so far, like, I think if it would be at one point getting an investor in or stopping the project, I would go for the investor. But if I can do it, with an organic growth, then I would always prefer that, because it's always easiest if you don't have to balance any decisions. Like if an investor comes in, then it might be that his interest is like growing the brand, making some profit, getting his money out. And I said no to some very interesting offers already, because like ethically I did not want to do them. And if anything is like more of a try to greenwash, or like, I mean, I will not say any names, but I had an offer from a sports team that wanted their clothes for a big event. And then I said, okay, like it would be amazing, but it's very short-handed now, so I cannot produce them, from recycled PET or something. And so I will not do that. And then more or less, like I could hear or listen or read between the lines that why not just taking normal clothes and telling that they are recycled, and then just telling the story that, and I don't want to do that, because if anything comes up later on the brand, then that will be a shitstorm, and I would not feel good in advertising something that is just not fact, And I'm pretty sure if I would have to talk through just this small example with an investor, I probably would have been maybe forced to do it because it would have been a very interesting business case. And that's why, for now, I'm quite happy that I can, just get my own decisions, and that I have to deal with the results of my own decisions because no one else is like any stakeholder in this.
Yeah. It's also very difficult, I guess, like if someone invests and then they want to get the money out somewhere down the line,
Exactly.
then there's pressure then of like how you have to make this profit for them. And I guess it becomes a very messy situation very quickly.
Yeah.
It would have to be someone who just believes in the cause. You couldn't be like, by year 2025, I want a 3x on my...
It would have to just be money, like here's some money to help you with the cause, not like
Or strategically. That's the other thing we've heard a lot on the podcast, especially with people who have a bit more of a altruistic goal, even though they're not NGOs. That they've taken investment from people that have actually been able to really like level them up in terms of how they can make the things or how they can actually grow and put them in front of other people and all that kind of stuff. So I guess that would be another reason for you to do it, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like, as I said, a friend of mine who is a quite successful consultant, he was sitting down with me like for, I think in general, like 20 hours to talk through all the details of the project, and we were developing some models and a business plan. And that is something, that's investing in the brand, but not on from a money kind of perspective, but just like he was just investing time because he's a friend, and he said like, okay, it's a weekend for me and it might bring a lot for the brand. So this kind of things for sure, but I'm not, so at least so far, I did not take any money from a third party and giving some shares or promises for that.
Well, if anyone's out there who likes the sound of the cause and is willing to help, reach out. Yeah.
But it's good. It's just good to. It's good to hear the because we speak to so many people who like go through fundraising rounds, and it's like a real sticking point for them. I think it's a really interesting flip side to hear, because like brand activism is, as you said before, this whole kind of idea of greenwashing or like actually just ticking boxes around these issues is such a big deal now. I think that it's. I can imagine the conversations that you'd have with people. I can imagine like other companies being like, okay, we've just got to do this. Like you got to do the Pride logo, So I think it's really cool to sort of like look at it from the other point of view. And as you say, you're not paying yourself yet, but like it's a very organic process, which is really important, I think.
That's why, I don't have to stress myself a lot. Of course, I would be even happier if the brand would grow faster. Like it's growing slow but steady and healthy. But I don't have any pressure to live from it yet. So and that's one of the reasons why I decided to go for like full time and now to half time instead of like full time and then quit completely and rely on the project, because then maybe I would be forced to do something that is not originally in the idea of founding the Mantahari project. And I'm basically protecting myself a little bit from that with having the situation that I don't have to live from the income of the brand yet.
I hope it stays that way for you for as long as possible.
Yeah, I mean, like now a lot of it's like talks and keynotes and all these things are getting, I'm getting more requests from that, and that's okay. Like that's then my person that is requested, and then I don't mind like paying myself out, for example, for the talks. But all this marketing from the brand to say like, okay, like if you buy a cap, €10 will be donated. I don't really want to change that. Like I'm at least trying to grow the brand organic until the remaining 50%, like until the brand is big enough that the remaining 50% are enough like to pay a fair salary. And then let's see how it goes. And if some more beach volleyball commentating or some keynotes about the project, like if these things come more regularly, then I think it's on a pretty good way.
So obviously, like in the near term, you've got like goals that you can set yourself that are separated from profit, and then in the long term, it's like there's a tangible goal of the cause and the mission of the brand. Do you find it difficult to put like keep KPIs in view and like measure the effectiveness in between those 2 points? Or is it just something that, I mean, by the sounds of things, it's very much like a organic process, but is that something you've tried to do, or is that something you would advise people to do who maybe are thinking about doing something similar to you?
Yeah, I think it's always important to have some KPIs, no matter what it is. Like it could be, I don't know, followers on social media, or just revenues, or target groups, or whatsoever. And so I'm having a plan where all these things are listed. Sometimes, like I plan to go more B2C, or like most of my KPIs for this year are B2C, but now a few very interesting B2B things came up. So I'm putting more focus on that. And this is where then, you have to balance the KPIs a little bit, because if I would, stick just blind to the things that are on a piece of paper, then I would probably miss some chances that I'm having now with like putting them a little bit lower on my priority list. So, but in general, it's, I think, very important to just have something written down where you can, if anything, gets a little bit wild, or you're a little bit out of balance with your project, then you can just have a look at it and just go back to the stage where, ideally, with an expert, you were analyzing why this next steps might be good for your project.
And do you think it makes you a better business person in general to have to do it in this way, in this more like organic step-by-step way, or do you think that like a higher level strategy would be more useful?
I mean, like if you look at the project from a business perspective, I think many people would say like, what the heck is this guy doing? Because sometimes
he's not even paying himself.
Sometimes it's I'm taking steps back because some things are not going the way that I planned to, and I'm trying a lot with where to get the best materials from and all this kind of things. And for example, I plan to go way more in apparel, like to do more shirts and hoodies and stuff. And apparel is a pain to do right now, because all like the cotton prices went just through the roofs, and like organic cotton, of course, even more. And then you have this recycled polyester and recycled PET. And there is now a real big market for this, or like a big market coming up. Like the big brands are everyone wants these materials now. And I had problems with the fit of the t-shirts, and producers not being super reliable. And then I have to store like 6 different sizes per gender, and I'm having way more retour shipments from the online shop if different sizes are listed. And then I already made a decision. Like I planned to have like the accessories that I started to be like the add-on, and the apparel like the big part. And now I'm just saying like, why? It's like it's super complicated. It's more work. It's not really more margin than the caps. And I would just focus on like the easy, one size products. They are very easy to store. I'm not using half of the capacity with the one size products than I'm using with the apparel. And so these are the things, like even if there might be a bigger market for apparel and I could power through and somehow it would work, I will just stick to that what is less a pain in the ass because
it sounds like a very specific problem to you, but I was talking to a colleague of mine. I can't take credit for the knowledge of this, but she did the research about Patagonia, which is obviously like a massive sustainably focused brand. And they basically said, as a company, like, you can't do it. Like, you can't do this, like, you can't have all of this stock and also have this kind of like higher arching goal, because it's just an impossible target, really, because of the supply chains and the issues that even with like the way that you make the cotton, it might be organic, but then the amount of water that's used to produce that cotton. So I think it might sound very specific to your company, but I think that like when you start breaking it down, it's a really interesting point of view, because more sometimes seems like better, but actually like if the brand or if your product is focused, then it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, definitely. As you can never do things perfectly, and whenever someone is consuming, there is a downside of consuming. Wherever something comes from, however something is made, it's never perfect, and that's something that is, I would say, like the only thing that is really frustrating since I founded the company is that you will always find people who are nagging around that, yeah, but why are you doing this then? And you're flying to Indonesia, and I didn't fly for the last 5 years. And, I would not do what I'm doing if I would have not been in Indonesia. And now I would not do what I'm doing if I would fly to Indonesia once a year, like to see how it's going, to create more creatives. Like I'm photographing and filming myself underwater, and that saves a lot of money, because normally if you would have to buy that assets, it's like insane. And of course, that's the fun part for me, to be 2 months in Indonesia, to meet everyone there, to be again in Komodo and dive with a manta rays. Of course, like that's the cherry on the ice for me. But it's still, like I wouldn't do what I'm doing if I would not fly like once a year. And I'm flying there, I'm staying there, and I'm flying back. So of course, that's like not as good as if I would not fly on a climate level. But that's something that frustrates me. I try like that these things are not getting too close to me, but sometimes you have people where, like they don't care shit about what they do, how they consume plastic. They are way too, I wouldn't say, maybe way too lazy to get active themselves. But then if they see something where someone is like not doing things 100% right, but as good as they can, then they nag on, these percentages that are not perfect. And that's something.
It goes full circle as well, like you're saying about them being too lazy to do it themselves. It's exactly what you're saying at the top of the show as well. The hardest part is just doing it,
Yeah.
And there's always going to be people who are going to poke holes in it. And it's the whole process of founding a company, starting an NGO. It must be so tough. It's very easy to look at it from an outside point of view and say like, you should have done it differently.
And that's another thing, because I mean, of course, I'm not posting my night shifts. Like I don't want, like, that's not the interesting part. How someone is, even though the next working day is starting at 8 a.m, that someone is at 3:30 still on the laptop and trying to get shit done that has to be presented in a few days. And that's the thing, like, especially with social media, that people always see the upside and not the downside. And then, of course, I'm posting way more when I'm in Mozambique or in Indonesia, because that's the more interesting content for most of the people. But then sometimes I'm getting, like this, this guy has such an easy life, and look at him, he's again in the sun and all that. And I was like, guys, if you would see the downside, and that I don't really have any free weekends the whole summer, or I'm standing on fairs, or that I'm working nights, like to get the next step done, then it's always a little bit funny when people just see the upsides and not the downsides, and then judge that you're having like an easy life, or that you're going the easy way.
Well, it's a little bit like I think we've spoken to a few CEOs now where they've described what they do. And we've been like, oh, it sounds like you got the best job in the world. And they're just like, no, absolutely not. It's not. Like, I think we were talking to a guy from a company called Butter a few months ago, Jacob, and he was saying that, like, I speak to a lot of our customers, and, like, I am the service line, and I speak to them whenever they need help. And we were just like, that sounds great, like getting loads of feedback, and like you're part of this whole like network, and you're pushing the product forward. And he was just like, it's hell. Like it's all you're doing is like just grinding through these problems that people have. Yeah. But it is obviously making it better, and you're kind of like very, very attuned to the company. But I mean, like,
I'm working for my own biggest motivation, like Mantahari is my baby. I mean, I was growing it from the idea to now like at least a little bit established fashion brand in a small niche, like beach volleyball and diving is now like the target groups that quite some people heard about the brand. But it's still, like you always have the thing that if you're not doing it, no one will do it if you're doing it alone. And then it's very hard to take a weekend off, because when I'm thinking, all my friends are going to the Eisbach in Munich and just having beer during the day and lying in the sun, I'm thinking of, that's basically 20 hours that I could use like to tick something off from my long-term to-do list. And then I prefer to do this, you know? And so it's always, there's always a pro and con, and I would do exactly the same again because it's something that I really believe in, what the project is standing for. And I mean, like, there are already like more than $40,000 that have been donated to Indonesia, all just from selling products online. And that's something that's just highly motivating because they could keep the research base in Indonesia would have been closed down during COVID if not the money from Mantahari would have supported them. And that's something where I'm really proud of, that like the project and all the supporters of the project and all the customers just made a big difference already and made something possible that they could keep up their studies and their educational work during COVID. That's always like the rewarding parts. And I would do, even though it sucks when all my friends come back with a sunburn and super good mood from the weekend and I'm still pale and just had like 20 hours in front of a computer, then in the end it's still worth it. And until I have this emotion about it, it's like, okay, I mean, I'm missing out a few things, but it's still worth it for me, then I think it's the right thing to do.
You should go into podcasting. I literally go from basement to basement. That's my
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So then just to finish up then, if you had a magic wand and there was one thing you could do that would really help Mantahari get to its goal from where it is now to where it's going, what would that thing be? What would it be from a company perspective, or even from you personally as a founder? Would that be more help? Would it just be more volunteers? Would it be more, public outreach? What would that one thing be?
I think that one thing is very individual, because everyone has a different superpower. I mean, you guys are having a podcast, and you're giving me now the stage, like that I can talk about Mantahari, which, is always nice, like to reach some more people, or not people in my peer group, but like completely different people. Like I really appreciate that. And other people that don't have a podcast probably write for, I don't know, a blog or something, and they could feature Mantahari in a blog. Or other people are, assistant of the CEO of a bigger company and are responsible for doing Christmas presents for the company with 2,000 employees. And I had that before, like that someone, a working student for a company with 1,000 employees, she knew Mantahari from Instagram, and she just had the idea. I think like the alternative would have been like Amazon coupons for €30 for every employee. And then she bought like bottles, Mantahari bottles, 1,000. And that's something, like her superpower was just that she is in that position. She like just had the idea, connected the dots, and that was the biggest donation in one streak that Mantahari ever did to gave to Indonesia, like just from that bill. Nice. And that's something, if anyone is just feeling or like having an idea how, and it's not just about Mantahari, like there are other problems, and you might say bigger problems than microplastics in the stomachs of manta rays, at least for people here right now. But if just from a world where, I mean, every company consumes, and then if you have a chance to do this, consume a little bit more sustainable, or like if there's some profits that are just made to be made, and instead of making the company a little bit richer, like you can use it as a marketing effect. If your company is not in oil and gas or producing plastic, then, I mean, if you're a consulting agency and you're saying, okay, let's do like a little bit of a fundraise together with our 3 biggest customers and send some money to a good cause, and that's something which in general I think would help a lot of projects, because it's, in the end, it's not hard. If the storytelling is good and you have like a little bit of a marketing perspective out of it, then almost every company is very open and happy to just generate some money or to give some resources for a good cause. And I think that is next to the personal level, that everyone has a lot of room to improve its own plastic consumption. I think the thing that people can just help most, Mantahari or in general projects or companies with a holistic reason.